weapons of mass destruction in 45 minutes. This now notorious claim was based on a single source saying that by serving a Iraqi military officer. The individual had not been produced since the war, but in this case, Tony Blair contradicted his claim in April. He said Iraqi had concealed his weapons in May 2002, which meant they could have all been used in 45 minutes. How did he come up with the 45 minutes? I don't know. Number 12, the dodgy dozier. Mr. Blair told the Commons in February when the dossier was issued, we issued further intelligence over the weekend about the infrastructure of the concealment. It was obviously difficult when we published intelligence reports. Soon emerged that most of it was cribbed without attention from 3 articles on the internet. Last month, Alistair Campbell took responsibility for the plagiarism committed by his staff, instead by the dozier's accuracy, even though it confused 2 Iraqi intelligence organizations and said one moved to new headquarters in 1990, 2 years before it was created. Reason number 13, war would be easy. Public fears of war of the U.S. and Britain were assuaged by assurances that the oppressed Iraqis would welcome the invading forces, that demolishing Saddam Hussein's military power and liberating Iraq would be a cakewalk. In the words of Kenneth Alderman, a senior Pentagon official, 2 previous Republican administrations' resistance was patchy, but stiffer than expected, mainly from irregular forces fighting in civilian clothes. This wasn't the enemy we war-gamed against, one general complained. Qatar, the fall of the southernmost city and only port that was announced several times before the Anglo-American forces gained full control by Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld, as well as others by Admiral Michael Boyce, Chief of Britain's Defense Staff. Qatar has been overwhelmed by U.S. Marines, is now in coalition hands, the Admiral announced somewhat prematurely. Reason 15. Claims that the Shia Muslims populations of Basra, Iraq's second city, had risen against their oppressors were repeated for days, long before it became clear that this was a little more than wishful thinking. The defeat was supposed to be a breakout by Iraqi's armor, which also announced by the military spokesman in no position to know the truth. Number 16, the rescue of Private Jessica Lynch. Everyone remembers this. She was in the supply line when she was attacked and taken hostage. Private Jessica Lynch rescued from a hospital in Nasiriyah by American Special Forces was presented as a feel-good story of the war. She was said to have fired back at the Iraqi troops until her ammunition ran out, and she was taken to a hospital suffering a bullet, stab wounds. It since emerged that all of the injuries were sustained in a vehicle crash. She left her incapable of firing anything, any kind of shot. Local medical staff had tried to return her to the Americans after the Iraqi forces pulled out of the hospital, but the doctors had to turn back when the American troops opened fire on them. Special forces encountered no resistance, but made sure that the whole episode was filmed. Reason number 17, troops would face chemical and biological weapons. As U.S. forces are approached Baghdad, there was rash reports that we would cross a red line within the Republic, the Republican Guard units of Iraq were authorized to use chemical weapons. But Lieutenant General James Conway, the leading U.S. Marine general in Iraq, conceded afterwards that intelligence reports that the chemical weapons had been deployed around Baghdad before the war were wrong. It was a surprise to me that we had not uncovered weapons at some of the forward dispersal sites, he said, with virtually every ammunition supply point between the Kuwaiti border and Baghdad, but they're simply not there. We were simply wrong. Whether or not we're wrong at national level, I think still much remains to be seen. Number 18. Interrogation of the scientists would yield to the location of the WMDs, weapons of mass destruction. I have got absolutely no doubt that there are weapons here once we have the cooperation of scientists and experts. I have no doubt that we will find them, Tony Blair said in April. Numerous similar assurances were issued by other leading figures who said the interrogations would provide the WMD discoveries and searches had failed to supply. But almost all of Iraqi's leading scientists are in custody, and claims that lingering forces of Saddam Hussein are still stealing their tongues, and it's beginning to wear thin. Line number 19. Iraqis' money, oil money, will go to the Iraqis. Tony Blair complained in Parliament that people falsely claim what they want to seize. Iraq's oil revenues, and that they should be put into the trust fund for the Iraqi people. Administered through the UN, Britain should seek a Security Council resolution that would affirm the use of all oil revenues for the benefit of the Iraqi people. Instead, Britain co-sponsored a secret council resolution that gave the US and UK control over Iraq's oil revenues. There is no US or UN administrated trust fund. Far from all oil revenues being used by the Iraqi people, the resolution continues to make deductions from Iraq's oil earnings to paying compensation for the invasion of Kuwait in 1990. Last but not least, line number 20. Weapons of mass destruction were found. After repeated false sightings, both Tony Blair and George Bush proclaimed the 30th of May that 2 trailers found in Iraq were mobile biological laboratories. We've already found 2 trailers, both of which we were believed in production of biological weapons, said Mr. Blair. Mr. Blair went further. Those who say we haven't found the banned manufacturing devices or banned weapons, they're wrong. We found them. It's now almost certain that the vehicles for production from the hydrogen, they came from weather balloons, just as the Iraqis claimed, but they were exported by Britain. Okay, you've got the 20 big lies about why we went to war with Iraq. And now we've got situations going on the home front. There's more anomalies with the blast out in Texas. Fertilizer plant, so to speak. It's making ammonium nitrate. There's been feedback about a lot of video footage captured about the plant explosion. It looked like a missile strike. People had mixed opinion about what happened. Everyone's not gonna 100% agree on everything, and especially it's not gonna be 100%. that they should agree on something as cryptic as this. But it's important that we have an open discussion about the topic, since the mainstream of the so-called alternative media does not want to have any sort of open discussion about what happened in this incident. Alex Jones, which is a famous internet star for pointing out discrepancies of what the government's putting out, his approved media stations, talk shows, hadn't even touched the subject with a 10-foot pole. He had Mike Dice putting out video using all sort of ad hominem attacks against people who are questioning what happened. So the whistleblowers are being subdued and silenced. His video looked like something you would see on the O'Reilly Factor or another Fox News propaganda program. Nonetheless, it appears as if quite a few people at the core of the so-called alternative media do not want to talk about this. And they're trying to persuade people from looking at any of the information. With this, I felt it was important to dig into the event a little more and issue some kind of counter arguments to the points that people are making who disagree with my assessment. And he says there were various oddities surrounding the company that ran the West Texas fertilizer plant, including the Monsanto lawsuit. Timing of this event around the anniversary of Waco, Texas raid and Oklahoma City bombing. A sizable drill was taking place at the same time of the incident. And of course, a very interesting video evidence of the explosion. A great deal about the event that does not add up. One of the possibilities that others have proposed is deflagellation to detonation transition. Deflagellation is whenever the explosive is in the process of expanding whatever container it happens to be in. It occurred, which is something that has been associated with a variety of industrial accidents. Basic gist is when flammable chemicals are air mixed, a sudden transaction from subsonic combustion to supersonic detonation can spontaneously occur. Unfortunately, the mechanism that causes this is not still fully understood, and there's no theories that can predict how this transition occurs. What's difficult is how this phenomenon could have occurred so far away from the actual source of the fire, where there is only the presence of light smoke. Smoke was moving towards the area away from the facility where no hazardous materials were stored. It does not match up with the characteristics of a video showing other chemical and gas facilities exploding. If this is a phenomenon commonly associated with industrial accidents, then theoretically we should see the same phenomenon in a video taken of other chemical plants that have caught fire and exploded. Back in 1988, a Nevada company called Pepcon stored aluminum perchlorate, exploded after catching fire. Aluminum perchlorate is similar to aluminum nitrate, but not quite identical substance to aluminum nitrate for any rocket fuel. Video footage of a Pepcon plant explosion shows you no flash of any sort of activity beginning mid-air away from the fire, where the chemicals were previously stored. In other footage depicting similar events, they all show the blast originating from the ground. Despite all the chemicals burning and mixing with the air, footage of the West Texas fertilizer plant exploding is the only case I've found where the explosion appears to begin in the air away from the complex and not at ground level. Footage looks like some sort of an object coming in from the smoke towards the